Hi.
Hi.
Great to see you. I'm a big robot hobbyist fan.
Most people are.
Tell me about these robots here.
Sure. So welcome to Knightscope showroom in New York City. Glad to have you here. These are crime-fighting, fully autonomous security robots that we've got running across the country. We hold contracts in 15 states across 4 time zones, running 24/7. They deter, detect, and report. So if I put a marked law enforcement vehicle in front of your home or your office, criminal behavior changes. So if you pull into a hospital parking lot at 3 o'clock in the morning and there's a 5-foot-tall, 400-pound machine roaming around by itself, it says security on it, likely you're going to steal the car somewhere else and not there. And that's exactly what our clients have been experiencing. And these machines not only deter negative behavior, but they capture 90 terabytes of data a year that no human could ever process properly, and put that information in a format that the security guards or law enforcement officers can actually use to help protect our country.
So Bill, tell us your name, your title, and a little blurb about what, just like a short little snap bite of what your little robots are about.
Sure, I'm William Santana Lee. I'm the chairman and CEO of Knightscope. We're developing technology to one day literally be able to predict and prevent crime.
Cool. That's very cool. So, what made you want to do this as a boy growing up?
Two motivations, one personal, one professional. The professional one is I'm an ex-automotive executive. For me, these are really simple cars to build. I think self-driving cars, autonomous technology, going to turn the world completely upside down. I think we have a unique way to commercialize the technology. There's been about $80 billion invested in self-driving cars. Maybe close to over 50 companies working on it. I believe we're the only company in the world that can claim that we're operating across an entire country 24/7, fully autonomous.
Wow.
On the personal side, I was actually born here in New York City. Someone hit our town on 9/11. I'm still pretty upset about it. So the rest of my life, I'm dedicating to better securing our country.
That's pretty cool. So what makes your mind think like a robot?
I don't. We're human, and I think Hollywood and the media has done us a service and disservice over the last 30 years. People think that robots are coming, and I practice this all morning. The robots are here, they're coming, they're going to take your job. All right.
So, does he think?
Does he?
What's his name, and does he think?
This is machine 71. So your car has a vehicle identification number. These machines have machine identification numbers. So this one's 71. I think more than half of our machines are actually named by our clients.
Oh.
So there's Rosie, there's Steve, there's CB2. I think there's a Big Daddy. I think there's about to be a Little Mama. There's all kinds of funny names out there. And it's interesting to watch humans interact with new technologies.
Are these guys thinking?
In a way. Yes, we use artificial intelligence in a number of capacities. It's the actual practical use of autonomous self-driving technology, robotics, and artificial intelligence into something that's actually helpful for society. So the ability for it to plan and replan on its own as it moves, for you to have a two-way dialogue with the machines, for the machine to learn over time that this is a person and not a fire hydrant, to read 1,200 license plates a minute, to analyze any mobile device signal within 450 feet of the machine, to run a thermal scan. There's all kinds of things that no human could ever possibly do. And they're really good at doing the monotonous, computationally heavy stuff, and then allowing the human guards and officers to do the, let's say, strategic work or the enforcement work.
Well, you have lots of values and morals. Do they have your values and morals?
Other than our long-term mission is to see if we can make the United States of America the safest country in the world. That's their mission, and that's what they're focused on. So they don't have any inherent biases or no.
I mean, whoever programmed them, which was you initially, don't they have your biases?
No, they do what they are told to do. There is no bias in reading a license plate and telling me that that number is 3.
Okay.
There's no bias in saying that that is a person and not a person, right? There's nothing inherent in these technologies that would yet today have that kind of capability. I think one of the biggest issues is everyone's all worked up about robots, right? And every 15 years we have this episode, right? Some new technology shows up and then the world's going to end. So electricity shows up and then what? Obviously that's the work of the devil.
Yeah.
That's going to get someone killed, right? Then the car goes over a dirt road in the early 1900s. That's going to get somebody killed, and it does. And then you'll never see another banker again. All these ATMs are going to take all our jobs. And so every 15 years is the same episode. And all I ask you to do is please plot the employment levels from 1900 to 2018. There are 2 dips, one in 1929 and one in 2008. And I can assure you those have nothing to do with technology.
Right.
And I think the other thing you need to think about is if you ever want to figure out what's going on with something, follow the money. There's $80 billion dumped into startups every year. Probably this year's probably running at $100 billion.
Wow.
I'm going to argue that less than 1% is going into robotics. Significantly less than 1%. So the reason there's an Amazon, there's a Google, there's a Facebook is because a ton of money was dumped into a ton of startups into the same sector over and over again, and a massive amount of failures till you get the 1 or 2 that worked, right? You don't have that going on in the robotics space. If you told me out of the 80 billion, there's 50 billion going into the robotics space, then yeah, there's going to be all kinds of massive change coming very quickly. But the talking point doesn't match the cash, and that's where I've got an issue, where that continual discussion of this is going to happen doesn't actually match the reality of the money moving.
So you had this idea, 9/11 happened, you had this idea. Tell someone who has an idea like yours, that out of the blue, I wanted to make a robot that helps protect us. How did you get the idea, and how did you go from idea to then starting to work on it to finishing it?
We're not a robotics company.
Okay.
We're an advanced physical security company.
Got it.
Whatever technology we need to develop to fix or help our clients, that's what we're going to go work on.
And you just happen to
Which is the opposite of what most roboticists do. I'm not a roboticist, I'm an ex-car guy. And some folks have criticized, like, why is he running Knightscope? And
yeah, what the heck?
And to me, most roboticists, the problem is we're kind of still in the 1970s of what was the PC industry. Like, robotics is finally starting to come out of the laboratory, out of the hobbyist category, but a lot of technologists are still trying to find the problem for the technology that they have. So they think that this little robot hand is a company. This is not a company. This is a feature, right? And they can't understand and distinguish between adding value for a client or promoting your own technology. And that's not what we're trying to do here.
Okay.
Our clients have serious problems. Crime has $1 trillion negative economic impact on the US every single year. It's a hidden tax we all pay in blood, tears, and treasure. And our country is not structured to address the issue. And what I mean by that is the US Department of Defense has a massive $700 billion budget. There's one person in charge, the Secretary of Defense, and there's a huge military-industrial complex to build you whatever submarine, jet fighter, tank you ever want. Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, Boeing, Raytheon, right? And it actually works, despite some overruns and everything else. The process actually works. Our country has 1 million law enforcement professionals, 1 million security guards that get up every morning, are willing to take a bullet for you and your family, and yet the level of technology we provide to them as a country is beneath the dignity of this nation. So you've got 2 million people trying to secure 320 million people across 50 states. That math doesn't work. The second piece of math that doesn't work is the US Department of Justice and the US Department of Homeland Security have no federal jurisdiction over 19,000 law enforcement agencies and 8,000 private security firms. There's literally no one in charge. There's no capital going into the sector. And that's why over the last 100 years, there's basically been no innovation in this space. You have security guards getting up every morning with a notepad, a number 2 pencil, a smartphone, and maybe a stun gun. And that's usually for a law enforcement officer, not a guard. That's the level of technology we provide to them. And then we wonder why every morning we wake up and there's some horrific new violent act that occurs on our own soil. It's because we don't invest as a country in giving the people tools for them to do their jobs more effectively. So if you're going to do that, you're going to have to come up with a set of technologies that can deter a lot of negative behavior in the first place, right? So if I put a marked law enforcement vehicle in front of your home or your office, like we talked about, criminal behavior changes.
I would feel safe.
So you do that, and then can we give the guards superhuman capabilities to see around the corner, to cover more ground 24/7, to detect new things that you would never have been able to do before? Like, does the hammer take the carpenter's job away? No. The carpenter kind of needs a hammer to do his or her job. And it's high time that we give the guards additional capabilities for them to actually do their jobs effectively. And those jobs are in question. You have 100 to 400% employee turnover rates. They cannot keep the people in the job. It's worse than the fast food industry. Now you tell me that someone sitting there at 3 o'clock in the morning in an empty parking lot twiddling their thumbs is a viable job, and I'll show you a disgruntled employee, unengaged, and likely not to stay in that job.
Right.
What if the robots could actually promote everybody? Now if you went to that security guard and go, hey, you got 7 of these robots, they now work for you. Now you've got a completely different conversation, right?
And they're going to be on the ball.
They will show up on time, no attitude,
That's
not
cool.
taking days off or anything like that. So the humans can actually do what they're really good at.
But they're more than just a tool.
I'm not so sure.
Well, they have names.
They have names. Humans have this funny fascination with giving robots names. Like, so we have one client where they were experiencing 1 to 2 criminal incidents a week. Stolen car, theft, assault, like really bad stuff going on. And it got so bad that the human guards were like, you know what? I'm not patrolling. I'm not going out there at night.
Wow.
So we put a machine there, and all the incidents have gone down to 0.
No way.
So for the last 15 months, we've had a lot of success. And then obviously if you ran your car, if you drove it 24/7 for a month, you probably need some maintenance and service, right? So we had dispatched a technician to go out and go service the machine. And the story goes that he got surrounded by, this is at a hospital, some nurses and doctors, and like, you're not taking our robot away, are you?
Oh no!
Right? So,
That's our robot.
what's fascinating to me
I love
is
that.
now Knightscope can stand up and say, we've helped a law enforcement agency issue an arrest warrant for a sexual predator. We helped a security guard apprehend a thief.
Wow.
We stopped a corporate vandal. We stopped a fraudulent insurance claim. There's been over a dozen of these wins, and we're just getting started. So if you start fast forwarding 10, 20, 30 years from now, you would never build a building today without a smoke alarm or fire detector, right?
Right.
It's going to be the same a few years from now, where you didn't want to pay the $6 to $12 an hour to guard your facility properly. You invested so much in your people, you invested all this money in your assets, and why don't you have the state-of-the-art security system?
Exactly. So last question. You had this idea. What was the first thing you did next after you had your idea? Just so that other people in startups, we have a lot of people in our community that they want to know, how did you get to where you are? How did you do this?
So don't ever let anyone tell you no.
Exactly.
So it took us 364 days to raise the seed round of funding. This was back in 2013. I was told, hey, Bill, you're out of your mind. This will never work. You'll need $15 million to build the first prototype. Probably won't work. It's hardware and software. You should pick one. And then lastly, physical security is not an investment thesis. You need to go away. And my encouragement for all the founders and entrepreneurs out there, don't let anyone ever tell you no. You go do what you know is right, and so long as it's sound, you just keep at it. And now we're working on what we hope to be our pre-IPO financing. We've secured our ticker symbol on NASDAQ. It's going to be a KSCP. So we're raising $50 million now, and if you're an accredited investor, you can actually go onto Knightscope.com, click the green invest button, and actually join us and be a force for good.
Great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It's really exciting.
Absolute
meeting
pleasure.
Everyone. Thank you.